RJ here. Thanks so much, Mommy Ginger, for having me.
Oh my gosh, super kinakabahan talaga ako. Our topic for today is hosting. So, syempre naman, di ba, of all people, I'm with the best, diba? The best host in our country. And I can vouch, no, because in numerous times, baliktad kami eh. He would usually be the host and the moderator for talks that I get invited to and I get to speak as a panelist. But today, ako yung magtatanong sa kanya about his life story, how he became and started his hosting career. So yun, RJ, maybe you can tell us more about yourself, even your entrepreneur, your ventures, no? Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Ginger. And thanks, Mommy Ginger, to all those listening to GTV. Thanks so much for joining us. And yung plug ko lang ngayon is at this very start, feel free to already, you can visit me on my website. That's www.rjledesma.com. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's RJ Ledesma, and also on Twitter and on Facebook. I'd love to talk to you, collaborate with you, whether it's from a hosting perspective or for a business perspective. That's great. And like Ginger said, I wear many hats. I wish I had just as many heads. And right now, I'd like to talk more about the hosting part of it.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, what's important, Ginger, and that's why it's also very important that you as a host are there, is because you have a lot of hats that you wear and you carry sort of that experience into your hosting career as well. And I think that's very key. At the very start, a host has to have something where he draws from, where he comes into a specific experience. Like sometimes if you're purely just into hosting and you're back, this is just for me, and this comes from me, that you're not drawing from any other experience, whether it's from theater or from business or from another field, and you're not able to bring it into your discussion, the discussion doesn't become more full, because I really think that what a host is able to do is bring from his own life and bring that into the discussion that he has. And what's also very important for being a host, and this is a very good tip, and I've learned this over the years of hosting, is that you always have to come from the assumption that you are a member of the audience. Listening there right now. And what do I mean by that one? So, for many years, I was trained as a debater. So during college, I was a varsity debater, and I debated many years. I debated both here in the Philippines, and I debated abroad, Malaysia, Singapore, Ireland, Australia, the States. And I served both as a debater and as an adjudicator, which is a judge. And oftentimes, when you're judging or when you're talking, what you want to realize is that you're speaking from the perspective where you're trying to convince what we call the average reasonable person, or ARP, the average reasonable person when he speaks. So sometimes if you use certain language when you talk, or if you make specific points, but that point is lost on the average reasonable person, then you lose the debate, right? So It can't be that you assume that the person is an expert who is listening to you at once. And then when you keep on throwing terms, you're not there to sound intelligent. You're not there to intimidate other people. Your job particularly as a host or even as a moderator, even if you understand the topic, is to make sure that when you convey it or when you converse or when you clarify, it comes to the point that the person understands you like an average reasonable person would about certain things.
Okay.
So I often say to people that, coming into things, I'm really pretty much well versed. Current events, politics, economics. That's just because that's who I am. That's how I've been built. I do work for Bloomberg. I do a show for Bloomberg. I do a show for CNN Philippines as well. But because of my debating background for many years, I was trained to really review current events, understand current events very well. And I'm a current events junkie, so I like looking at these things. But what's important is that you know these things well, so that when you converse with people, especially when you're hosting, they realize that you know what you're talking about, you understand what's happening, but you want to bring it down to the level of the people listening to you when you're talking. So it's like you might know an issue very well, but it doesn't mean that the people listening to you might know the topic very well. So whether it comes to business, whether it comes to entrepreneurship, kunyari tayong dalawa, we're both in the startup industry, right?
Yeah.
We both know startup terminologies. We both know how things work. But when you're talking to the average reasonable person who might be hearing about startup terms for the first time, you might alienate them. So your first job as a host is not to alienate people, but rather to make them feel at home, that you're trying to you're trying to elevate them to the level of understanding of the discussion that you want that you want to have and that you want to bring them to it. Diba? That's what the host does.
For example, if let's say someone gets you as a host, is that a part of like your preparation? Do you ask them who are the audiences, like who are
Always do. I always do.
Yeah.
At the very start. At the very start, I always ask people. Usually, I mean, at this point in time, when I get hired as a host, people already know that I already know how to ask questions. They know, in other words, I have a body of work that they're able to see. So they know by now, RJ knows what he's doing. So he just needs to adjust to what audience is he talking to, what is his, what does he have to know before he comes in? Because everything else almost you know already. Okay, you know how you know. Sometimes it's internally built for me. You know the flow of a discussion already by this time. I know that I have to take things from here to here. I know where to insert questions. I know when to interact with the audience, and I have an internal timer for myself. That I know, like, for example, okay, he's spoken enough, next person. Okay, he's spoken enough, now I have to go back to this other person again. And that, sometimes your brain as a host has to do multi-tracking it. In other words, that multitasking actually, like, for example, while you're listening to the person, you're already formulating questions which you can ask the person. That is still relevant. That doesn't go far. Because it's so obvious. It's so obvious that if you're hosting, whether or not you know the topic or whether or not you're listening to the person that you're talking to. I think the mark of a very good host is that when you're talking to them, he goes, okay, he's listening to me. It's not that, okay, you have a cue card and you go, okay, question one, sir, Okay, sir, question number two. That meant that he didn't listen to what the host or what he was trying to say. What people are looking for, if you're hosting with them, is that, okay, you're listening to what he says and you just go, okay, sir, based on your answer, can I go deeper into your answer or further, sir, to what you were trying to say? Can we focus more on this one? Which means that you've been paying attention to what they're trying to say. But that's two skills. Number one is it's a critical thinking skill, critical listening skill because you're listening to what he's trying to say, but it's also a critical thinking skill because you've got to come up with a question that is relevant to what the person is saying, what he said, and you're trying to come up with something else. So, people think hosting is about good diction, speaking slowly. I don't know, maybe you speak with an accent. If that's the case, I would fail as a host, really, because I speak a bit fast. I don't speak with an American accent, or an accent, or sometimes, I might do Taglish. But for me, that's what's important because people know that number one is maybe my excitement really is an example of me understanding what people are trying to say. I'm excited about the topic and the empathy, it comes off as an empathy to the audience. But more importantly, it's also getting a good feel of the audience. Throughout this ECQ, the whole time I've been hosting online, and I've had to adjust. And it was a skill set I had to gain. That at the start I could only probably host in English. Then I had to adjust the hosting in Taglish. And now I can practically host in full Tagalog if I need to. But it's also understanding what type of audience that you have.
Napanood nga kita in Tagalog. Sabi ko, ang galing naman ni RJ. Talagang straight Tagalog. And then, you know what? I'm curious to know, like, you mentioned nga, this is like a different world that we live in right now, that you have to now host events in Zoom, online. And how do you go about like preparing for these events and even offline? Before, kwento ko lang like before, the first time I met RJ, when he was our moderator in a panel, came up to us and then he started asking me, oh, what do you do? Ganyan, 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 no? So parang before the show starts, he actually takes time out to get to know the panelists, to get to know the speakers before he does the moderating, no? So like prior to that, what do you do in preparation to all of these events and all of these moderating stuff that you have?
To be brutally honest, I don't really prepare too much nowadays. It's not because I don't like to prepare, but it's because there's already a built-in system of knowing what to ask and where to take a discussion. So what I just need to know is what's your background, what do you do, and what do you want to communicate in the end. And because I'm also a storyteller, my background is, like I said, being a host is not being a host per se. It means you bring your different backgrounds. I'm really a host and a writer, and so that's my background. I host, but I also write. I'm a fictionist. I'm a creative non-fictionist. Humble brag is that for 10 years I had a column in the Philippine Star. I produced 6 best-selling books. Many of those books were bought by my mom. Kaya best-selling sila. I'm a 3-time National Book Awards finalist. I'm a UP National. I'm a fellow of the UP National Writers Workshop. So parang writing is something I know. It's storytelling is something that I understand. And that's basically what you want to do. You want to help people tell stories when they're there and bring them from one point to the next point where people communicate a key message. And so when I talk to you, I want to figure out what's the key message that the person wants to deliver over here. I'm not asking questions per se, but I'm asking to come to a specific point. And to get to that point, there might be different directions, but you're getting the same way that they want to communicate something. So that's what happens. The preparation just in my head is that understanding, okay, where do you want to start? Let's get a bit of an introduction. Let's get into the meat of the discussion. And then after that one, let's say you're doing Q&A, get some questions out. And then finally, you go to the point, okay, let's wrap up the discussion. What are the main points that you want to communicate? So, I mean, in my head, those things are kind of built in for me. So, it's not that I don't prepare, but I understand already where a discussion flow should go. So I don't really look much at scripts, not so much because I don't need scripts, but rather is that when I tell people, it's not, you don't have to follow the script word for word, unless that's what the director requires you to do. But you have to understand what point they want you to make when you do this whole thing. That's really what you want to do. I'll step back a bit. So, you were asking what my background was. So,
Yes.
Just to explain and just to inform to people what I've been doing. I mean, I've been hosting for a very long time. And I was trained even as a young boy. When I started off, my mom used to make me do a show called Children's Hour. That was with the late June Keithley. She's one of our EDSA 1 heroes. She had a show called The Children's Hour, which came out on Channel 4. Many years ago. I was on that show pre-EDSA revolution. So that's how old I am. Okay. And that's my first exposure. You would read from what you call idiot boards. People would write down the scripts over there, and I would have to read from them, right, to practice. And when I was young, when I was grade 2, grade 3, I would join elocution contests, where you would recite mga talumpatian, yung ginagawa ko noon. And then finally, I did a lot of extemporaneous storytelling, extemporaneous speaking. So I went through a lot of those things when I was in grade school. In high school, I did a lot of debate and public speaking. And then in high school, that's when I became the model for Royal Through Orange. You might have been too young for that one, Ginger, but from about 1988 to about 1991, I was before it was Liza Soberano, it was RJ Ledesma. Many years ago. I did about 15 commercials for them. So I was exposed to the public eye. I had to learn how to speak. It taught me how to speak to different sets of people. Then finally, when I got to college, I did a lot of competitive debating. I did a lot of competitive debating both here and abroad. And I got exposed to different styles of debate, particularly how Australians would debate, how the Irish would debate. And I realized that when you try to convincing people, because Philippine convincing people is shouting, gesticulating, getting angry. I mean, very formal. But in debate, the ones that I saw is that you could make people laugh and still make a point, and you could win. And I realized we don't often use those tools over here that you can make people laugh, but you can convince them to your point at the same time. And these are things which I picked up along the way. I also did a show called Team Talk from 1993 to 1995 on GMA7 together with Bea Lucero, who's now Bea Lulier right now. So I had a lot of practice over the years, and just kept getting refined and refined. I've been hosting. I host so many different things, and I think that's very key. And then I left for. I went corporate for a bit, so I understand business pretty well. I worked for Procter & Gamble. I worked for their brand management department, so very familiar with business. Left to do my master's abroad. Came back home because it was 9/11 in the States, and we couldn't get a job if you were a foreigner. And when I got back home, I started working for my family business, but I also produced my own TV show, which was called The Men's Room on Studio 23, together with film stand-up comedian Tim Tayag. And so I learned also a lot about humor. I learned a lot about humor, and I learned how to be very spontaneous on TV. And at the same time, I would host also I was a weekend host for Magandang Umaga Bayan Weekends a long time ago in ABS-CBN. So all these things practiced. I mean, it was practice, practice. You know, at the very start, bulol ako mag-Tagalog. I couldn't even speak Tagalog. So I had to practice on a regular basis. I actually got a Filipino teacher to help me with my diction,
Oh,
with my
really?
accentuation. And I would listen regularly to DZMM at night just to see how they would speak Tagalog. Kaya yung Tagalog ko, parang newscaster yung Tagalog ko. It is not, hindi po siya malalim na Tagalog, but it's how probably you would hear it on the news. In fact, nung isang beses nakilala ko si Dr. Love, I don't know if you listen to Dr. Love on DZMM. Sabi ko, Dr. Love, natuto akong Tagalog sa'yo. Sabi ko sa kanya because I would listen very regularly to how they would speak, and so that's why I picked up the Tagalog along the way. Because I was raised speaking English and I would debate in English, so I had to develop that familiarity and comfortability of doing it that way. Then eventually, about 2007, 8, I started doing wedding hostings as well. So that added to the repertoire as well. And I would do corporate hostings at the same time. So I often tell people when they look at themselves as a host, you know, I think it's good to make yourselves versatile as a host and don't consider yourself just as a host for. I'm a wedding host. I'm a corporate host. I'm a live events host. For me, I think it's very important to have this sort of skill sets. You have to be very versatile when it comes to being a host and having all these skill sets with you because you pick up different things. I picked up a lot from. I did theater before. I was Repertory Philippines when I was younger, before I did my commercials. So I picked up a bit from theater. I picked up a bit from public speaking and debate. I picked up a bit from TV production. I picked up a bit from newscasting, and all these different things play into how you host. Because, you know, if you were just a host per se and there was no character to your hosting, why would people ask you to host, diba? But just like any brand, you know, you have to have what you call your USP or unique selling proposition, what makes you stand out. You know, I borrow a concept that I have from, you know, from brand management, my first job, no? And, you know, people keep on saying how to manage your own personal brand. And I look at it, you know, more as what we call brand equity. And what is brand equity? Equity means ownership, right? What does your brand stand for in a person's mind? So the same way, like my business, Mercato, there's a certain equity I want to own as a business, and I want to be about incubation of food concepts. That I'm the first place that you think of if you want to incubate a food concept, right? And you build on that equity. You build on people going to you because you become the best in food incubation, so people go to you. So the same concept must also work when you build your brand equity as a host. What do you want people to know you as a host? What will make you stand out? And, you know, in the end, what do you want to stand out for? What is unique about your what we call the USP, your unique selling proposition? What do you want to stand out for as a host in the mind of people? And you've got to be clear about that one. So each one of us has a different way of standing out. And if you look at the best hosts out there, for me, one of the best female hosts out there is Isa Litton, which I love hosting with Isa because, like me and Isa, we both have an understanding. We don't really need to do much because Isa knows what to do. I know what to do. We don't really talk so much because we know how the rapport works very well between us. And she's got a very strong equity. She talks very, very well. She dresses very, very well, and so people understand that that's the kind of female host I want to get. So if it's usually female host, she's top of mind. Now, when they think of male hosts, I would like to think that I'm top of mind if it comes to specific segments. Like maybe I'm not the top host when it comes to doing lifestyle events all the time. Maybe they're looking for maybe a artista or a model or something like that one. But if they're looking for, okay, we want somebody for a lifestyle event, but he must be able to be animated, witty, and ask the right questions at the time. Like, RJ can do that one over there. So you want to build up your what you call your brand equity. Like for me, if I was to identify what I think people get me for, is number one is I understand business very well. I know the language of business. I can talk that one very well. I can handle open forums very well and moderation. And that's usually because I'm listening to the person who's speaking. I'm engaging my critical thinking and listening skills so that sometimes when producers know that I'm over there, directors know that I'm there, they can breathe a sigh of relief because they know I don't have to really prepare questions. RJ will just take care of all the... In fact, instead of please, I'll make my own questions. When I see their questions, I go, this isn't really getting the meat of it. We really need to get more. And they know, I understand that. And when they make me speak to the client and say, after I'm done with the client knows, RJ understands exactly what you want to communicate. And he will ask the right questions for that. That's what you wanted, right?
True.
But they also want to know that you're very, like, another equity which I stand for people's mind is that I'm animated, energetic, and witty, right? So these things people stick to people's minds. Let's say, for example, during this period of time at the ECQ, many of us have had to shift to online hosting. And, I've had people say, I said, okay, this is what my talent fee for online hosting. And then they go, yeah, we know that you're a very good host online because we've actually seen other people hosting online and they can't deliver it with the same, you're starting cold there, right? People are coming in, you FB Live, you start at this time. Hi, my name is this one, and there's no energy level there. But if you come in very strong and you know how to introduce, that energy comes off. And that's the same sort of energy which basically you deliver, whether or not you're doing online or offline, but people can read that sort of energy, right? So very animated. And at the same time, people that's animated and energetic, and people like witty. Sometimes that's like years of thinking of, being trained in doing humor writing and talking to people, of bringing humor there, because if you're able to make people laugh, it's one of the best ways to create a nice nice rapport with them, so that it's very difficult to hate somebody who can make you laugh. But sometimes in a tense situation, when you're hosting, when you're talking to people, and you say something funny, not to make fun of people, but rather to a little levity to lighten the situation, or to make people realize that you're listening to them. That's key. You're not making fun of people. But you're actually you're just making people know that you're paying attention. You're listening, and you're making the discussion, even though if it might be heavy, you can make it a bit light, right? Or if it's light, you know how to bring it heavier. So these are the type of things people like that you understand, and sort of like that. That's your USP. People know what brand you are as well. And also, like for me, another one is people are versatile. They know, okay, RJ can do a corporate hosting, he can do wedding hosting, he can do lifestyle hosting, he can do a business moderation. That's key, diba? Just like anything, it's diversification of your brand, or just expanding your skill set that you can host in any situation that is given to you.
Taking off from that point, no, RJ, parang how long did it take you to find that brand equity? Kasi syempre, diba, like people, when they're starting, they need to build experience. And they're sort of siguro in a place where they're lost. Mag-wedding host ba ako? Or magaganito ba ako? So, ang daming possibilities, no? So, parang it seems like listening to you, you really know who you are. And it's a big part of like being a good host. So, when did you arrive at that point na alam mo talaga kung sino ka? And how can they arrive at that, no?
Well, I think the first thing really is that, feel free to keep on hosting. That's number one. Get as much experience as you can. Make as much mistakes as you can. If you get free hosting, just do it. Learn from it. Diba? That's really learn from it and see where you can make the mistakes. Because in my mind, by this time, I can make mental shortcuts about hosting already, because I know things. I know how to handle situations already. I know how to take, how to host, how to take situations. I understand body language. I mean, right now, it's, Isa gives great talks on online hosting. Me naman, it's really a body of knowledge I've gained over the years that I really haven't articulated. But I understand body language. I understand how to react to people. I know how to do plan A, plan B when I'm hosting. But the first thing is that, so number one, do as much hosting as you can. Number two, if you're a host, and like right now, I've been talking to many of the wedding hosts, and they kept on saying things like, how do I host right now? I tell them, how do people see my work? You have to do a body of work where people can see you on right now as well. Mm-hmm. Meaning that do your free webinars, do your whatever. True. Find venues where people can see you do actual hosting, so that they can see your ability to adjust situations. Like right now, you're looking at me host, and I have nothing in front of me. I'm talking to you really coming from here, but you don't realize the structure that I have in my head while I'm already talking to you. And I still use a lot. And then because I'm aware of the frame that I'm using here right now, I know that I need to use my hands to communicate much better. So I know my body language as well when I'm doing this.
Okay.
And the other thing also that you realize is that you've got to really have some good role models when it comes to hosting. Meaning that sometimes, like the same thing if you're an author or a writer, you choose specific writers whom you think that you like. You like their style. You like what they do. And eventually, you start using them as a start. You start basing your work from them, and you start growing from their work, and you develop your own voice, your own style. Like, for example, this is very funny. When it comes to writing, and people who read comic books might know who I'm referring to. There were two authors I really like. One of them is Grant Morrison. Another guy is named Warren Ellis. These are really great writers. Blew my mind. I like how they communicated things on the comic book page, and by writing would emulate their style. Not the content, but rather how they thought. Because
Yeah.
when people read, sometimes it's different. Do you read to appreciate, or do you read because you're picking up something, techniques? Like you're listening to techniques.
Yeah.
I write the writing, but I also listen to techniques. And I remember somebody who wrote a review of me. When I read RJ's work, it's like reading a comic book, which is exactly what I picked up from them. And people who read comics, they can see that. They can see that, oh, I know where he's coming from, right? But he's not doing exactly what they're doing. He's doing his own style of it, right? And that also came to me when it came to hosting. There were particular people whom I enjoyed listening to when they came to hosting. And I said, how can I pick up from what I like about them and turn them into my own? So, for example, when I was younger, I really liked, when I was younger, I remember I was second year high school, and I was doing the Royal True Orange commercial. And who I liked in terms of hosts, and they were very big at the time, were Edu Manzano. He had Late Night with Edu, and Martin Rivera, Martin After Dark. And I liked that very boisterous type of hosting. I said, this is something that I could do, and a style that I could take. And I said, these would be good role models for me. But at the same time, the other role models which I like were, like, for example, I like Whose Line Is It Anyway? I said, oh, this is a nice show. This is a stand-up show. I like the sharpness that they had. I like Conan O'Brien. I said, oh, okay, I like how he does things as well, where he's smart and funny, and he's able to bring that into his content. So you choose, sometimes you just choose initially role models whom you want to emulate, and that's the kind of, like, they just are your springboard to develop your own style. So that, for me, that's what's key, diba?
Yeah.
And also realize what's your strength. I mean, it's just that my strength is business. My strength is sometimes it's humor, because that's what I'm good at. But I can't do that sort of humor that Sam YG does, because he's coming from a different background. He came from radio was his background. I guess the humor that he does is a different humor from my own. I mean, we can converge specific times, right? But then I come from a different background as well. So people hire you for hosting. They hire you for specific things. They want you for It's like, we do wedding hostings a lot, diba? So people will choose you specifically on what they think that you can deliver, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they get me, they will get Ato Mungson, they will get JC Ellis, but then because they know that we each have our own styles. Like, for example, for me, they want to get somebody who can add a bit more of gravitas, more formal, but at the same time has got a sense of, who also has a sense of humor for the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So, this is the kind of guy that we want. But for others, they want the style that JC brings, maybe a more hipper millennial style, diba? Or they want people like Atom, who was, we all have different vibes that we bring. But remember that as a host, you need to remember that what you want people to know you for as a host. So if they're choosing among different hosts, they will go, I want this one because I've seen his work, because the body work is there, and this is what he's known for doing. And you need to stand out for that one.
So I'm curious, RJ, no? Do you ever get scared pa rin? Like now, do you get scared? And how do you build your skill? Do you still continuously build your skill?
Well, I'm building my skill technically is, hosting on a very regular basis, almost, during this ECQ, I've been hosting almost every day on different shows. On Bounce Back, FB Live, I've done Easy Franchise, which is where I'm a co-founder. We do FB Live there as well. I do Go Negosyo, which is FB Live. Then I've done a lot of talks online. I've moderated several discussions here online, just to keep yourself sharp and to also reinterpret or recalibrate your hosting skills for an online audience. To see the kind of
may difference ba, RJ? May difference ba between offline and online now that you're recalibrating?
Well, actually, it's a bit more fun because people never know that one of my techniques when I'm talking to you is I can see the script. I'm looking at you, but it's really the script that I'm looking at in front of me, and then I can go there. So it's like I'm communicating with the audience. It's also the gestures that you have. In fact, you can talk a bit more. It's what's important is also the interaction you have with your audience at the same time. That you know how to interact with them, even if you're here. sometimes the chat box can be very important because since you're not live with an audience, the only way for you to interact with the audience and acknowledge the audience is your chat box.
Yeah,
And,
that's true.
and that's how you have to know how to interact with them as well. But everything else, even the skill set that you use, let's say, if I'm doing an online moderation, same like an offline forum where, you have to give equal attention to the people who are there. You're listening to them. You know how to ask the right questions. You know how long you should speak for. Then you move on to the next person. So, I mean, a lot of these skills which you've gained, but for me, a lot of the skills that you've gained offline can be used online as well. The adjustment lang is like, again, your frame, the amount of energy that you have to bring, how you have to interact with the guests as well who are over there, and the commenters who are there as well. So these are the type of things that you have to be very much aware of. And people don't realize, sometimes they say, why are you so, I realize that now when I host, there's a lot of adrenaline that comes into this one, a lot of energy, because when I'm done hosting live, I'm very tired sometimes. It's like I did a workout the same way that even online when I'm done, it's very tiring, but because it's really engagement. You can't zone out in the middle of a hosting job, right? Whether it's offline or online, you've got to be there. I mean, I think that's a mark of a good host. If a host has to rely on the script that they're given, then that doesn't seem to work. I often tell people the best words to use are your own. So like, when we debate, we don't like people who, when you use a lot of quotes. When you use quotes, just trying to tell people, if you use quotes when you talk, it's like you're trying to impress them and make them feel dumb. I mean, that's basically, if you look at Australians, that's how there was a book on public speaking debate training. Whenever you quote, it just means that you're not able to use your own words. And number two, you're trying to say that I'm smarter than somebody else, right?
Oh, yeah.
But, that I know more than you. But really, if you're able to use your own words, it sounds better. Also, at the same time, if you've got a script that you're following, and maybe you don't practice it enough, or maybe it doesn't sound like your own words, it comes off as very stilted and wooden to the audience. But you want to make sure that you can talk to the audience, especially now. And the benefit right now of hosting online is that if the script is in front of you, it's not obvious that you're reading a script, and you can look at it's like you're looking at the audience here. Unlike if you have cue cards, you have to keep looking down at your cue cards. There are some people very good at memorizing cue cards. I'm not great at memorizing, but the thing is, I'm great at understanding what I'm trying to say. So I don't really use the cue cards as a way where I have to read the script. I'm just using them to make sure I know where I'm going. Then I just practice ahead of time because I just understand where I have to go. I remember there was a recent time that I had to host together with Pia Wurtzbach, and it was for a liquor brand, and because they were celebrating, I think it was Filipino month or Filipino celebration, the script was almost all in Tagalog, literally, at hindi siyang yung parang dalubhasang Tagalog, malalim na Tagalog. And I was floored. But the thing is, diba, after some time, when you practice it enough, it starts to sound natural. That was really, really funny that the management who had to come over, they were so impressed because they were fumbling in their own Tagalog, and they didn't realize kaming dalawa naman ni Pia, and I give her credit, the Tagalog flowed very, very nicely. Wow. So even sometime, I was doing the script, but I could also I could go off script. I could do a bit of off script and talk and still interact and still use, still speak in the vernacular and make it sound very natural, diba? You have to speak that, what's important is that you don't speak like, even if it's a script that they give you, it doesn't sound like it's not natural to you, diba? Yeah. That's why even a cadence, if it sounds, personally for me, if it sounds so practiced when you speak, it doesn't sound natural to people, diba? So, I mean, I can sound very paced and very, but all of a sudden, it doesn't come off as something that's coming from me, but rather from what I read. But when I sound a bit more excited, it sounds like, and that's just my style. It doesn't mean that everybody does this. It doesn't mean everybody does the same. But just because this enthusiasm rubs off on people, or it's more natural, or it's more authentic, the relationship that you're trying to establish with your audience.
So is it easier, RJ, to host now? Kasi parang may script ka nang binabasa dyan.
I don't really read the script, to be honest with you.
Hindi talaga.
I mean, unless it's required by the producer that I read the script, or the director that they say, okay, RJ, we want you to do this word for word because there's certain words we want you to say. But other times they just say, RJ, here's the script, but it's just a guide for you. to know where to get from point A to point B. And I think that's better because it really gives a lot more credit to the host who's coming there, that the host knows exactly what he's doing. And like for tomorrow, I'll be hosting an event, and that's what they just did. RJ, this is just a guide, but it's really up to you. In fact, it was a Q&A, and there were no questions. It was just an intro, extra. RJ, please take care of the rest. So, sure.
O yun, so sa question ko, RJ, do you ever get scared pa rin? Or like, when was the scariest time that you've like hosted an event or something? What was the scariest experience?
And it's not because di sa pagiging mayabang to. I'm just saying I don't get too scared anymore. I guess it's over the years. Like for example, when I asked Dimples, Dimples Romano is a good friend. Sabi ko, Dimples, kasi I do some part-time roles in acting. I have some movies that have come.
Actor ka rin eh.
And the thing is, for them, RJ parang muscle memory lang yan eh, pag iyak. Parang alam ko na, parang yan yung kasi yung profession ko eh, di ba? So kung kailangan kong humugot ng iyak or humugot ng emosyon, kaya niya. I remember we did My Perfect You together.
Yes.
And I think she was Best Supporting Actress Power. She won an award. And I remember it didn't take much because we had to learn on the spot. And I was so impressed because the director would say, okay, this is the first motivation. But that's not enough. We need you to change your motivation now when you sa atake mo sa papel na ito or this specific scene. And this happened within, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes, and all of a sudden she adjusted. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. And then but the emotion she was able to draw is very strong. But that comes from years of experience as well. So for me, para sanay na mag-host, so I know exactly how to. When people tell me something, I know how to adjust the things. And the thing is, it's only sometimes when I'm getting out of my comfort zone, which is also good, that I get a bit nervous. Like the Tagalog one was one that I got a bit nervous about because.
Natandaan mo. Kasi
it wasn't a script I could go off script anytime. It was something I had to follow. Yeah. So and just like anything, hard work, diba? I kept on reading it until it sounded familiar to me. Until it sounded like I could do it without it sounding like it was alien to me. And that's when the script became very, very natural. And the cadence and the speaking became much better for me. Because usually, even if it's a topic that's business related, I can understand it. I can understand it better. Or it's not so much that I get nervous, but rather, let's say, if I'm used to hosting weddings in a particular way, and I prepared the template for the hosting, and they ask me to do it differently. It's just my awareness is that my awareness comes from the idea that I know exactly people's reactions to specific things, and you learn as a host, you already know how people will react to specific things, and if they change that sort of like what you're used to, you're just concerned that people might not react a specific way, and you're asking for a reaction of either laughter or drama that you want, right? Mm-hmm. And it might not because you know that over years that okay, if I do it this way, it might not be the reaction that they want, but you learn. So you go, okay, it's a bit of a challenge. Let me see how I can still deliver it in a way that will still engage people, and that's just really how it's like.
Kamusta ang hosting industry, RJ? Like with this pandemic and everything, I know that you're also part of like the wedding industry, diba? Syempre wala na ngayon offline events eh. So what's happening right now?
It's a bit challenging for many of us. There's actually many of the hosts, which include the live events hosts and voiceover hosts, we're all part of this umbrella coalition called the National Live Events Coalition.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, one of the coalition was put together because I actually moderated a discussion on Go Negosyo for the events industry, and I put together several on that show were several people who were in the events industry, not just from hosting per se, but rather from production, from different areas. Yeah. And we got together in one group, and it grew out of there. I just couldn't be active there because I have many other concerns, right? But then, and they had one for the hosts to see where we could take it further from there. And now they're just developing really protocols for how we can host in the new normal. And separately, there's another subgroup of us as wedding hosts. And how they're also planning how we can do wedding hosts in the new normal. And my suggestion just for them was that you have to do a lot more online hosting and really not look at yourself anymore purely as a host for weddings or a live voiceover host, but rather as a host per se who is versatile in different functions. But the thing right now is that you've got to be out there, have your voice heard, have your face seen, because it's one of the most crucial times. And I think that that for me was key. I realized even for myself that when this pandemic began, I started just hosting for Go Negosyo live almost every day at the very start of the pandemic, and then Easy Franchise, my business, also started doing it live, and then Bounce Back came, and I started doing talks with them as well,
Yeah.
and that became, it snowballed that people started getting me to host their own events. From there, because they could see the ability, he knows what he's doing, he can host, but can he host online becomes the next question. Yes, he can host online as well, and it grew from there. But again, like, you have to develop a body of work so that, if you're a host right now, develop a body of work. So usually when people ask me to host right now, they go, do you understand the topic? Do you know what you're doing? I go, here are all the links to the 60 plus events I've hosted over the pandemic. Please check them out. Here's my resume. Here's my video link from my TV shows from Bloomberg and from please watch them. Because that way they also know the value of what you're getting. You can sell yourself short naman also as well. I mean, they're getting you because you've got a certain skill set that not everybody else can do. Like just recently, I had to say, and you have to set your value as a host. So sometimes, like, there have been shows where I'm not actually. I often tell people this one. Sometimes I'm more comfortable hosting than just watching in the crowd, because my mind is there looking at them saying, "Oh no, what's this person doing?" Not that I'm being mean. It's just that because that's what I do for a living. So I can see that where it needs to be improved. Even online, I can see. I've done online sessions where I'm a resource speaker, whether it's on franchising or entrepreneurship or startup, and I'm seeing them host. I'm going, okay, he could do a better job, but of course, and that's not my role right now to do.
Yeah.
But of course, it's very difficult for my mind not to work that way. But then you start seeing, then people start realizing it's because of those incidents where people realize, yes, we need a professional host to do these things. Mm-hmm. Whether it comes in corporate or whether it's intimate wedding events, you need somebody who understands the flow of an event, whether it's corporate, whether it's wedding, whether it's lifestyle.
You know what? I want to share with you, no? Kasi when you started doing hosting gigs, when this pandemic happened, no? I've been noticing it, and I've been observing what you're doing. And nakita ko nga parang you get a lot of gigs, ganyan. So I started emulating you, no? I started trying to come up with all of these things, no? Interviewing people. And what you're saying, na basta just be out there, no? I think it's true. Kasi parang when I started doing this, which was siguro a month ago, I've already created 30 of these interviews with different people. I started getting hosting projects. Pero mommy hosting, obviously. Mga mommy gigs.
So again, that's your brand equity. That's your USP. I cannot host mommy events because I cannot speak with authority, right? But I can host business events pretty well with some level of understanding of what's happening, and they need this particular host. So for me, you're perfect if you can build that equity view that I'm a good host for mommy lifestyle events. Perfect, right? Yeah. And that's what you want. That's what you want to do. You all want to develop that specific niche so that it's very difficult for people to enter that niche. Like for me, if they were to choose several business hosts to host a business event, then they have to go, okay, right now, should I get this one? He speaks pretty well. Yeah, but he doesn't know business. He doesn't know business as well as RJ does. So let's go for RJ. And that's just how it's like. I mean, like anything, they've got choices. How do you make yourself stand out?
Galing, RJ. As in, super impressive. What you're doing right now, I think a lot of hosts, aspiring hosts, will learn a lot from this interview that we have. So any last tips, So ang dami ko natutunan. Get yourself out there, look for your brand equity, try to not stick right now to kung wedding host ka, don't stick with that, try to explore different avenues or different ways of hosting. So other tips.
Yeah, sure. I actually have a lot, but here's some tips. It's like what Ernest Hemingway said before, diba? A writer writes, diba? That's basically it, diba? A host hosts and hosts and hosts and hosts. Mm-hmm. And the thing about hosting is that you will not be great the first time around. I remember, when I was younger and I started hosting, I could memorize well, but my speech sounded so stilted. It didn't sound right. So you couldn't host well. Then after that one, you get stage fright. Then you adjust as well. Then you learn how to improve on the job, diba? I'm sure, Ginger, after the 1 month you've been there, you've gotten much better. You've improved a lot, and you gained a lot. And the thing I need people to remember as a host is that I think you need to really stay humble and grounded. and that's for me, that's key. I've been hosting for the past 15, not well, in recent years, 15, 16 years, but professionally maybe, but 20 years to 30 years, I've been out there hosting. And there have been people who have probably been hosting, who are my contemporaries who are hosting that time, really, really popular, but they're not hosting anymore right now, right? But I'm still hosting up to now. And I think there's a couple of things. I'm very easy to work with because for me, you're establishing a relationship with the producer people. Huwag kang mayabang, di ba? Kasi gusto mong trabaho, di ba? Never cup an attitude. Next one is be very humble. I mean, for me, I can never, just because I've won awards. So, I didn't mention it earlier. I'm a 3-time Aliw awardee for Best Male Host. I'm actually now a Hall of Famer, so I can't qualify anymore to get a new award. But I can't rest. Nobody's going to hire you because I tell them I'm a Hall of Famer or I'm a Best Male Host, right? Or a 3-time Best Male Host. They hire you because you do a good job.
Yeah.
And maybe that works for companies, but for couples who hire me for weddings, hi, you should hire me because I'm a 3-time Best Male Host. What does it mean to them? It doesn't mean anything to them. It's really you're as good as your last job, but again, it's a good relationship that you're able to establish with people, and that you're very humble and grounded, and you're willing to learn and see that you won't be great the first time around. And I think one of the things that you need to remember also as a host is that how you have to know how to put your audience at ease, get them to relax. Whether it is of course, it was much easier to do that one when people were in an audience that you could see, but you have to find a way to translate that, putting audience at ease, even if people are attending it online. Put them at ease, get them to relax, get them to ask questions. I think that's key. And I think what you might need to remember as a host or as a moderator is that you are the star of the show. And I think some people, kasi sa ibang moderator, parang, hoy, magaling magsalita, I got this great accent, and I want people, parang, or I want to do this part, or like in wedding, I want to play this game because it makes me, that's my signature, or I want to make sure that people hear me speak more. Parang, realize that you are the star of the show. The program is a star of the show, or the event is a star of the show. So you want to keep bring attention to that one. You want to make sure that you become superfluous. That it's not you that they're compliment. It's not you that's the star, but rather it's the event that should take precedence. Yeah. And when people see that you're able to bring attention to the event rather than to you, they will thank you for that one. They want, kasi diba, like for me, I do play games during my program when I do wedding hosting. It's to bring attention to the guests and not to me, right? Yeah. Because they're having a good time, and then they go, I had a fun time. I laughed a lot. You really made it more fun. But it's not me making it fun. It's me creating that situation, that atmosphere that makes it fun for people to attend or to enjoy the program. And remember, as a host, it's like I very much appreciate, and I think that's why Isa's also a very good host, is because you have to remember that there's a bit of showmanship involved, or gravitas, certain level of depth that you have, because you're putting on a show for the audience, right? I mean, you're putting on a show for the audience. You're a bit of a showman here as well. I remember Sam, YG, we had a recent talk where we were all together on another show, and they realized, your personality when you're hosting, it's not really your personality offline. Ginger, you know me, diba? I'm not, when you see me, I don't know about you, but sometimes you see, medyo iba si RJ on stage when he is on a regular. I don't know if that occurs to you or not.
Yes,
but you're putting a bit more of a show over there. You're putting a bit more of a personality that's an exaggeration of the real you, or a bit different from the real you. But that's how it's like. You have to be a bit more of a showman, a bit more of a performer when you're over there. Sometimes you have to know how to speak dramatically. You have to know when to slow down. You have to know when to laugh. You have to know when you have to emphasize things. I mean, and these are the things which you learn on the spot. And the other one is, and I'm going just very quickly with you because these are tips that I can give. I can talk on and on about hosting, is that you have to be thinking on your toes. You have to have presence of mind as a host. You cannot zone out. It cannot be that you ask a question, you skip out again, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be the whole time listening to what the speaker is saying, because you need to prepare that for the let's say open forum, or when you make a transition. Let's say that my most simple example is that if a speaker speaks and then you step out and then you take your coffee, you're not paying attention. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Then you go to the next speaker. It's obvious you didn't listen, but maybe you picked up a couple of things that maybe you can mention that by way of segueing to the next speaker, thanks so much, sir. I really appreciate what you've had to say about this one. And hopefully we're going to talk about it more in the open forum. But in the meantime, allow me to introduce our next speaker for this afternoon, right? And then you've got to be quick to adjust to any changes in the program. That's it. That's why you have to be quick on your toes. And, there are times when things screw up. There's technical difficulties over there. The speaker's not yet ready. You have to be ready with what I call your one-liners, your ad-libs in the air, just in case there's dead air. And dead air is the biggest enemy of any host or speaker or program. So you've got to have, like in my mind, if there's any technical difficulty, if anything happens, alam ko na kung ano sasabihin ko, di ba? I'm prepared to have something to keep the air not dead, right? That's what's important. So these are just a couple of things that I've done ahead of time, and like you said, you have to read the audience, check the room. In this case, that we're online, you have to know who the audience is, so that you can adjust what you want to say to what the audience is like. Because sometimes, like I'm hosting something tomorrow, they said, RJ, you can't be too animated tomorrow. You've got to be, because you're a group of professionals, you have to be a bit more. Take on a more business persona where you're a bit more calm when speaking. Okay, sabi ko, okay, that's what they want. I mean, should I be arrogant and say, no, but this is who I am as a host? No, I mean, that doesn't pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what pays the bills is to understand, okay, this is what the client wants, and I will do it. And you do it properly. And all of a sudden, while you're doing it, maybe you can insert a bit more of your personality in the hosting, and they realize, hey, RJ, that was a good thing that you did. Of course, it takes time and refinement to do that one when you want to introduce a bit more of that one into what you're trying to say. But again, it's something that you get over time.
Yeah, thank you so much, RJ, for all of the tips. I think ang dami ko natutunan. Like for example, like really listening, and then in the process of like introducing the next speaker, that's what I do. I've noticed you kasi, and I observe like different hosts on how like they do things. And ganun ka, you acknowledge, you give the key points, and then, okay, now let's go to this person. Ganun ka. So I'm doing that right now. Siguro one thing that I wanna work on pa, is I'll try to look at my past interviews, and then yung showmanship and the gravitas. Siguro parang knowing when to like speak louder, or parang, okay, in this part, medyo dahan-dahan ginger. Kasi sometimes I get lost na parang, okay, parang very monotonous yung conversation when I'm hosting. So maybe I need to work on that more. So I'm trying to work.
That's right. And also knowing when to, like right now, knowing when to interrupt very politely or very nicely into the discussion, just to change the mood or the cadence or the flow of the conversation is also nice. Sometimes you have to know when the person is belaboring the point, if it's too long, and then you need to change things, but do it in a very polite manner. I mean, these are things which are key in any talk, because some people, they don't know that one. Or let's say when people are conversing and you have a forum, you can't give everything to one person, because sometimes one person speaks overly long, the other person speaks overly short, diba? And it's a forum of many people. You can't do that one, diba? Everybody gets should have as much as possible equal or equitable airtime over there.
Yeah.
And that for me, that's respect the guests that you bring on the show. So those are the kind of things that you want to bring forward when you're over there. And of course, cadence is important, meaning that the voice has to sound a bit different every time. So it sounds like you're just doing one thing. I mean, it sounds a bit different every time as you're moving forward.
Thank you so much, RJ. Thank you for taking the time out and sharing your knowledge with all of our viewers today. If they want to get hold of you, or if they want to like consult or ask you some questions, where can they? Sure. Yeah, where can they find you?
My website's rjledesma.com. They can write me from over there. But at the same time, I can be reached on my Facebook private page, my public page, my Instagram. Life's an open book over there. So yeah, but one thing that I want to just point out is that right now, especially during the situation, and this is just me wearing the entrepreneurial mindset, that obviously things are a bit difficult even for us in the hosting industry. But like the Chinese have a character that is Wei Qi, right? That means that there's in crisis there is opportunity. Mm-hmm. But when we do that one, we have to realize that we have to address pain points. We have to adjust to the situation. And who knows that maybe longer term, the sustainable thing might be to actually host online and can deliver a sustainable, scalable opportunity for you to develop hosting. It could be a great source of income for you as well. You know, God is putting us through some trying times, but sometimes His plans for us are much better than the plans that we have for ourselves. So, you know, this crisis is over here. It is what it is. And we can either just feel very bad about it, or we can say, okay, let's be a bit resilient. Let's move on. Let's see what are the other opportunities out there. And maybe God has a better plan for you after this is all done. I mean, it was this crisis which made me realize, and after talking to you, that, you know, finally I have to put up my own show online, because I've been doing shows where other people produce them for me. So now I guess I have to just produce them myself. And I said, okay. And there's a lot of learning that comes with that one as well. But it might be something even better for me in the longer term. And that's how I like to think of things.
Oo, ang dami talagang realizations, no, this pandemic. Sobrang daming, I'm sure, like, even people listening, they're already thinking now, ano ba yung kailangan ko gawin to earn that extra money? Syempre, di ba? To sustain their livelihood, to sustain their family, etc. So, yun, thank you so much, no, RJ. Talagang parang I know that it's late. And ang dami kong natutunan from you, no, na pwede ko talagang gawin dito sa vlog. And for those who are watching, no, thank you for sticking it out with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hope that you learned a lot from this episode. So if you like this episode, please like, subscribe, share, and click on the notification bell if you're on YouTube. So thank you for watching GTV. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. God bless. God bless. Thank you.